Our final keynote speaker is Rose Lovegrove, designer known for his groundbreaking work at the intersection of nature and technology. Through his career, Rose has collaborated with renowned brands like Apple, Sony, Louis Vuitton, and Airbus industry. And his award-winning work is displayed in major museums worldwide, including MoMA, Pompidou Center, and the Guggenheim. Please, let's welcome Rose Lovegrove and the amazing moderator, Ella Colombo.
Hello, everyone. And it's a pleasure to be here, meet you all in the beautiful Ithra. Hello, Rose.
I'd like to thank Guillaume, because that was great, actually. Very inspiring. So I hope that inspired you too, because when you get older, you see a lot of things, but when you see somebody so committed, it's quite wonderful.
Yeah, it's beautiful to see. Ross, you've been designing the future for over 40 years across many disciplines and many topics, from the small to the big. I've known you for a long time, but I just want the audience to know what inspires and drives your creative process.
Well, you can see here behind me wonderful images of the natural world. And, at the end of the day, this is what we have. The natural world is something so incredible. And that's for me, that's beyond argument. It's the foundation of everything. It's us. It's our biology. It's the plant life. It's the evolutionary processes, And my work is part of evolution. That's why I have a chronology, and you will see that today. I mean, the image which is behind me now, that's of the Natural History Museum in Paris. It is mind-blowing. And every child should go there, because all every child will realize is that from a fish to basically, an elephant or a whale, those same structures are very evident. There's this incredible, how can I say, fusion of beauty and logic in the natural world. And so, as a little boy, I didn't really know what design was. I mean, I kind of fell into it. But those principles that you asked me, which are, we don't copy the natural world because we can't. I mean, that's silly. There are things like biomimicry where we can evaluate that beauty and logic, the intellect of nature, if you like. Janine Ben-Yus is the author of biomimicry. She's fascinating to talk to. But it's not as simple as that. So I think if we just assume that we are part of nature, so anything that we do is effectively nature. It's just a different kind of nature.
Yeah, you often say that you work with your own DNA, which links us back to how you look at evolutionary design processes. In your case, DNA stands for design, nature, art. What is there in the natural world that inspires not just to think creatively, but also push innovation? What have you learned from the structure or deconstruction of innovation?
Great question. I mean, we live in an age where resources are everything. They are fragile, and they are not infinite. So to make the most with the least surely is good for everybody. I'm interested in the economy of nature, the economics of it, because what nature does is it only uses what it needs in terms of its material. It often dematerializes. So anything that potentially grows or evolves is actually self-refining. It's what they call automata. It's an automated natural phenomena, if you like, that improves. Nature improves. And nature, what nature does is it responds to atmospheric condition. So it's a very slow burn. It takes a long time for nature to evolve new species and so on. But here we are, we come along, humans, and we can biologically re-engineer anything. I mean, it's fantastic, isn't it?
Yeah, it truly is. Some of your designs are incredibly futuristic, and at times they've been too pioneering too soon for their time because they were so advanced, not just in their aesthetics, but also their manufacturing process. In opposition to that, you often reference something called future primitivism, like your fascination with our ancestors and how they evolved and created new invention, new tools. So you often mention silexes and other first objects. How the idea of first objects come into play in your creative process?
Well, I mean, wait for it. This whole thing, you know, there is a timeline, but it's very organic. It's this no past, present, future. It's this incredible fusion of all things considered. If you go back to first objects are not contaminated by branding or any form of communication manipulation. I'm interested in that. I'm interested in the idea of global consciousness. I mean, our ancestors, and I mean our ancestors, made the same things in different parts of the world. They were identical. That was just through a form of global consciousness. And they survived with very little means, you know, maybe 5 materials, where everybody in a family would make something. I don't have a slide here, but in another talk I give, I show a bow, an arc, or arche, which is made from approximately 15 different materials. About 23,000 years ago, that sinew of a gazelle's ligament, another piece of skin, some particular type of wood that would flex. Very, very sophisticated object made with such incredible limitation. And yet, whoever owned that bow would have to, on a Monday morning, have to go out and run as fast as they could to catch an animal, otherwise his family would not be fed. The next day, and the next day, all week, getting weaker and weaker, and yet having to find that strength and that stamina to step up in order to catch an animal to feed the family. So, I mean, when I think about those things, and here I fast forward to today with all I mean, the incredible knowledge and resources that we have. We are living and working way below our potential, 100%. So, I'm sorry, I'm a bit emotional, but if you apply that to design, whatever design is, it's a force. It's a force that can and should be utilized for constant reinvention.
Yes, so sure, absolutely. So there is a degree of adventure, there is a degree of need. When there is a need, you will succeed, right? So there is a moment of failure before getting there, but it's this journey of discovery imposed by a need. How is that coming into play, or how do you approach this kind of topic between the natural and the artificial? And is there a creative process or an ideation process that you find converging between the natural and the artificial?
Well, again, some of the images that you're seeing here, this is of a city, for example, where the city is fully designed and influenced by the movement of the transportation. I design everything. So the movement, or almost like water flow in Petra, would cut into the rock. This is how, when things are natural, you don't get in the way of naturalness, you just let it run, okay? And with that, you'll get everything again. You get that beauty I keep talking about, this sort of aesthetics, which can be astonishing and resonate with all of us. I mean, it doesn't matter where you come from culturally or what language you speak. The undercurrent of it all, I believe, is this sort of It's a form of organic design. I'm not here to be prescriptive, because you know I'm not. But the thing is, and I'm pretty open to other ideas, but I just feel that there's this resourcefulness in organic design, which when played out in the right way, whether it be in an aircraft, I mean, some of the aircraft that are being designed now would blow your mind. I mean, we are living in an age where in certain industries we're exploring things that are just so far out. So you talk about the natural and the artificial. The natural world develops at glacial speed. It hardly moves, okay? Whereas the artificial world, what we're looking at right now in biotech and all these things, I'm interested in the convergence of that, the convergence of science, physics, biology, all of that. And that can be designed. That doesn't mean to say that comes out as a water jug or something, because I'm really not that interested. It could come out as something radically new and different. So I think the design mind is a new mind which is incredibly fertile and can assimilate and pull together so many unrelated things, because we're fearless, man. I mean, the thing is, people come to me because they can either say, gosh, well, we went to Lovegrove and look what we did, or they can say, if we failed, by the way, talking to Guillaume, oh, we failed, it's that damn Lovegrove, he's useless. You understand me? So you can be blamed for innovation, or you can be thanked for some kind of progress, but you've got to enter that fire, and I'm not giving up. I mean, this is my window. You know, I spent 40 years trying to get to a position now where some of these principles are coming to the fore, so yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah, I'm just looking at the imagery. Your work is very beautiful, very organic, and very sensual, but beauty is not necessarily your starting point. You always try to balance the beauty and the logic, and beauty in the volumetric form sense is an evolution or is like a consequence of the informed logic. Can you just open a little bit how you arrive at beautiful form that are there for a reason, like those are folds that have a structural integrity to them?
Yeah, this animation you see now, I would use a lot of animation in my work anyway, as part of the design process, because I love things which feel that they are alive, that they are in motion, that they are not inert and dead. If you look at the architecture, sorry, we flew in yesterday, and a lot of the architecture that's being built around here is very similar to Dubai, where we live. Oh man, I mean, these concrete blocks, it's shocking. It's wrong. It doesn't feel right at all. These things should float. The desert is an ocean. I mean, why, Saudi has this opportunity, by the way, to take the lead on all of this. The idea that the environment you inhabit is in motion and has energy, and that energy is picked up by us. And it's this sort of self-generating, perpetual motion. I mean, I've had very famous architects say to me that my work is heroic, and they mean that negatively, and I can kind of take that. But I'm sticking with what it is. And the things that are generative design means they are grown and not constructed. So my mission before I pop it is to ensure that the world has this opportunity to go from the mechanical to the biological. Because once we get to the biological, then all the recycling systems, all the sustainability will kick in, as in nature. At the moment, it doesn't, because everybody's looking for this long-term permanence for things which should not be long-term and permanent.
Understood. Another aspect that comes across from your work is this deep emotionality, like the beauty, the sensuality, the organic form, but some objects are deeply emotional. They have a reaction in the viewer or the user. Is emotionality something that you practice or you seek through your drawing, through your thinking?
Lovely question. I mean, the thing is I'm not premeditated and I'm not calculating, because I don't like that in people. I don't like this preparation, if you like. I think you know or you don't know. If you talk to a scientist or somebody like David Attenborough, they don't have to rehearse, because they are who they are. You understand me? So I think this thing where if you produce objects, whatever we're talking about, which have this magnetic emotional appeal, that means it's beyond language. It can appeal to somebody in China, it can somebody in Peru, somebody here. You know, it is beyond language. So it's this wonderful thing which is cross-relates to the future primitive. And the future primitive comes back to this thing which I practice, which is I can run this computationally through the computer and I can get all of the results that maybe I need. But then I'll override it. Because I discovered something many years ago in an exhibition I was doing, and it was called Instinctive Override, where I ran a program in Torino very quickly with aerodynamicists who worked on the space shuttle to develop the perfect organic, how can I say, aeroflow form. And I let them run for about 5 weeks. Meanwhile, back at the ranch in the studio, I asked one of my assistants, Luca, I did him like a 3-minute sketch that went from a water droplet, a viscous water droplet, up to another shape. And I said, you just keep running on those, okay? And when we got the results back, we were, from their analysis, through instinct in my studio, their analysis was about 2.8, and I think we were about 3.1. So I went for mine. So I'm here to advocate instinct, not over-calculation, but once you have a bit of that both, you've got to start somewhere. Every scientist, everybody has to start with instinct and then run it through various programs. I mean, I think we'll talk a bit about AI and the impact of that, but that's an incredible moment in life for us, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. Going back to the principles and maybe the materiality of your work and all of the materials and the technologies that you've been working with, and the form and how you arrived to the form, obviously there's a lot of trial and error. Can you just maybe mention a couple of projects where failure led to groundbreaking discovery or like groundbreaking innovation?
Yeah, got lots of those. Because that's part of that is part of the process. I mean, there are certain situations where I will deliberately fail the project because I can feel it's going nowhere, it's going the wrong way. And I know there are probably quite a few designers in the audience, but once you're designing with one material and then for some unknown reason the client will shift to another, it makes it immediately irrelevant because the physics of the material is so embedded in, like this, the ridon, this is carbon. I can pick that up with one hand. If you started to make that in ceramic, you probably couldn't even make it in ceramic. It's stupid. So there's that thing where I will slowly make it fail because it has to, because it will fail anyway. But I did a water bottle 24 years ago now, and this man came to me. He said, I've got a Welsh water company. You're from Wales. Would you design this water bottle? And I started. And 24 years ago, I was working in a workshop. I mean, this was just at the beginning of computational design. So I handmade these water bottles myself in the workshop and sprayed them gray, like gray primer. Oh, God. One looked like a car accident. One looked like a very bad Frank Gehry building. And another thing looked like an Issey Miyake dress, which actually, if I made them all, I'd probably make a lot of money from them. But anyway, I did these. And spraying something gray primer that's supposed to be water does not help the process, okay? So anyway, I went through the whole thing, found somebody who could scan them, then we visualized them, blah, 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 blah. I ended up in a factory in northern Italy called San Benedetto, who make water bottles. And I understood enough Italian to know what Mr. Benedetto was saying about me in front of my client. It was outrageous. Terrible things that I didn't have a clue what I was doing, blah, 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 blah. I was wasting all his money, everything. And or you wouldn't want to be in the car driving back to Milan. I mean, I was like the worst, you know, time waster on earth. And but then I found out that Mr. Benedetto wanted to sell him one of his standard bottles. Now, I just don't want to talk about this all morning, but the most water bottles shouldn't exist. The idea that we sell water as a commodity is outrageous on Earth. It should be free. You shouldn't make money out of it, okay? First, so that I talked myself out of a design project because I'm thinking, why am I doing this anyway? So if I'm going to make it as beautiful as possible. That's my mandate. So when you make a water bottle, you blow a balloon. It's polycarbonate, and you blow it into balloon shape. So you can blow anything you want, really. So I was right. I knew I was right. It's just that it didn't conform to industry standard. An industry standard for water bottles is got to fit the machine in the factory, got to fit the palleting, got to fit on the truck, and then they've got to fit on a shelf of a supermarket. There is no disregard whatsoever, no regard, sorry, for the value of water itself. Without water, we don't exist. You know, so there's a philosophical, intellectual dimension to this, which I have to preserve. Otherwise, I'm not going to be a designer. I'm out. I have to know why I'm doing it, you know, for good reason. So the thing is, it eventually got made, and when we hit 1 million units, my client ran an ad in Corriere della Sera, full page, saying, me with the water bottle saying, Grazie Ross. No client does that. And now after almost 25 years, it's still going strong. You know, and even the original ones, people don't even throw them away because they're so beautiful. So that is a sort of success from very, very near failure, but it only became a success because you need to develop, it doesn't matter what you do, you have to develop a conviction. And you have to sell that conviction to whoever it is that's sponsoring whatever it is you do. And I've learned to get quite good at that. And helps with the white beard because people trust you when you've got a white beard. Anyway.
That's amazing. And the water bottle today is probably one of the only water bottles in museums across the world. It's a masterpiece for sure. Yeah. Now, going back to this idea of selling natural assets or not selling natural assets and giving them the right they deserve in terms of beauty, at least in their presence, I want to go back to a sustainability factor. And I know you have a particular take on sustainability. Like, sustainability doesn't necessarily mean working with raw materials, example, recycled wood or core. You look at sustainability from an economics of form kind of way. Can you just open up on your principles that leads to sustainability from a different perspective?
I do not want to live like a troglodyte in a cave with all these rough, crafted things. I don't think people do, to be honest. So this idea of what sustainability means, and you know, good on these people who take something and break it down and then remake it into something. And I completely understand where Guillaume is coming from, but that's that he's doing it in such a great way at an industrial level. So that, and the ones that are in color are remarkable because they bear witness to the origin of the species of the material. That's super great, okay, and that's going to come. But we need to put that cycle in place. But you know, things like food that needs preservation, you can't use materials like that. In fact, a wine bottle is more expensive to wash than it is to pulverize into glass and reheat it and make another bottle. How ridiculous is that? That's ridiculous. Okay? Yeah, that doesn't make sense to me. So the idea of sustainability, I mean, what are we sustaining? Are we sustaining brands? I'm out, because you know, you shouldn't sustain brands because we need to have incredible turnover. I mean, forgive me if there's anybody in the audience, but you know, driving a Rolls Royce today, I think, doesn't make any sense. I mean, it doesn't in an age when we have lightness of materials and new electrification and incredible. So, you know, these things represent you, and they should represent your culture. So what are we sustaining? Yeah, are we sustaining a luxurious life on Earth that we can't afford because we're facing some huge issues? I mean, huge. So what about when we move into alternative energies and that kind of thing, and the symbiosis between natural sources of energy and life?
Yeah, so for
that
example,
gets really exciting, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, you're showing dematerialization.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
you're
yeah.
taking form away to arrive to something that is more intelligent.
Exactly. What this does, for what you see here, this is a program. So I kind of have a rough idea of the structure. This is the most minimum chair I can think of. And I run it through a program that basically turns it into a weird dinosaur. And when I 3D print them and they come back, they don't make any sense. They look like they'll break, but you don't touch because you're interfering with a natural process. You can't stop the lion killing the gazelle. You have to let it run. So I'm curious of these ideas that if you develop programs which become inherent in the process, it means that everything that gets produced would be the minimum material, would be dematerialized, it would do all of this. In my TED talk at Oxford in 2013, which is TED Global, I presented something called Genesis, where the idea that we don't design anything. It's created by an algorithm that takes an object and fires it at the future, and it will coalesce everything related to that object, and it will give you the next object. And then friends of mine would say, well, God, that's a bit boring. What about the biodiversity? And you say, well, you just have a bit of a Lovegrove or a Stark or a Gritchich or whoever it is. You just put a little bit of pixie dust into that product. So that's nature, because you get species of birds that have small variations, but it's still the same bird with the same logic. And I think that's really beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely. Which brings us to the generative, the algorithmic, and artificial intelligence. And we know that nature is certainly not boring at all. We have incredible diversity and beauty. And we're discovering now that artificial intelligence gives us that as well.
Mm-hmm. Wow. AI. I mean, that's just artificial intelligence. Well, look, Einstein's IQ was 162. Some say it was 190. Stephen Hawking, 160. The highest IQ ever by a human being was somebody called, I'll have to come to it in a moment, but I can remember it if I've got enough time. Daragon DeMallo or something, young, 400. I mean, that's more than double Einstein, okay? But the highest IQ for an AGI at the moment is placed at 350. There's other things out there on the internet, but that's what it's placed at. So AI is not quite there yet, but when it does get there, what are we going to do with it? So we can put on the nervous hat and go, oh my God, that's the end of everything. Or we can say, look, how can it really benefit? And you know, like I said at the beginning, we work way below our potential. So AI, I think, could help us step up. So in the field of biology, medicine, and so on, I'm so excited. I can't wait, because I think that needs an absolute revolution, and we're in the middle of that. But I think in the field of design, we're going to have to pass through a bit of a bumpy road, because when we started to investigate AI, friends of mine thought I'd lost the plot. They thought, oh my God, finally, you know, Lovegrove, he had all that lovely logic, and now he's just giving it all up. But no, somebody like myself benefits because I have a massive archive of 40 years of work. So I'm not copying anybody. I feed my own ideas into myself. And that helps me to self-generate things based on my principles that fit me, but I think also augment and push forward the debate about different things. So AI is a fantastic thing. It's a delight, because we're just going to have this explosion of potential. I think it's how we filter it, and because obviously things might look good, but they can't be made. So we need to bring the AI into the manufacturing process. And if AI can allow us to create materials at an atomic or cellular level, we can make our own materials. Wow. How amazing is that? Pinpoint accuracy, fat-free, with no waste. Wow. That's what I'd like to pioneer. But that's the collision and fusion of everything that I'm talking about, if you know what I mean. That's why I'm keeping going, because to give up now is ridiculous, because this is the best time to really be creating.
Very exciting. Thank you very much.